Exactly. Bottom left, we completed ace-8. It was four-handed. I check-called flop against Gresser. He bets, yeah, as you said, full pot. Not loving it, but still, some people have no clue about bet sizing, so they're just betting with 5-6 for protection value, because they don't realize we can have a queen or an ace in our check calling range. And of course, when the 8 is a river, now I'm feeling pretty confident about my hand.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's also going to be raising, like ace-10 offsuit plus. Probably most players are going to be raising pre-flop, so he definitely has a lot of just weaker ace-x.
Yeah, I was thinking about betting smaller on the river, but the turn is a king, right? So I think he can never really call with a queen, unless I bet like 1/4, 1/5 pot size, which I really don't want to do. And I think he still can have hands like ace-deuce, ace-3, ace-4, ace-6, ace-7. Maybe even ace-9 from time to time, so I go for a big bet. But in hindsight, I think even betting bigger against a fun player is better, because if he has an ace, he's going nowhere. So probably betting like nearly full pot is way better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think anywhere between, say like 2/3, 3/4 to like a full pot or even an overbet sometimes.
Hey, this is Fallout 86 and Mariano 5 for Raise Your Edge. And as you can see, I recorded a cash game session on Pokerstars. We played Tournament 50 for ring.
Yeah, what's up, guys? So we're going to check out the footage here and just see if we can spot some of the main differences between online and live, and of course, look at any of the interesting spots when the hands come up. So let's get it rolling here.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go. Let's see if we find some interesting spots. Was definitely a fun session, that's for sure. And yeah, it's really similar to live, especially how the tables look like. Of course, I think online nowadays, in comparison, is way tougher, no question.
Yeah, for sure. But as you say, some of these lower stake games can definitely play pretty similar to live. Obviously, less of the big multi-way pots, but people are still going to have huge leaks.
Yeah, I agree, and I think online is the same as live, so you should definitely start labeling your opponent. So here we have a heart, right? We have some basic stats for our opponents. So for everyone that is not familiar with my heart, here we have 3 lines. First line is VP/IP, prefer raise, 3-bet, full to 3-bet. Bottom line are the raise first in stats from under the gun to small blind. And yeah, second row is C-bet, full to C-bet, and I think all the other stats are not that important. Yeah, bottom right, first interesting spot comes up. We play against a fairly loose opponent, so we assume he is a regular, looks raggish over the first 30 hands. We flop an open-ender and we bet small. Do you think that's standard on this board texture, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a huge nut advantage here, for sure, because he can't really have 10s, jacks, kings, or even ace-queen. So I think we could possibly use a bigger sizing, but I think we can also just bet full range here. We'll be totally fine.
Yeah, I think what's important on this board texture is that, especially here on Tournament 50, a lot of those calling ranges are super inelastic, right? He's basically calling the same range to a small bet that he's calling to way bigger bet, because when we think about it, he's calling probably most ace high, most straight draws, most pairs, especially 10x or better, right? And it's probably going to fold all the worst on the flop, and it doesn't matter too much for him if I bet 150 or $2.
Right.
When you think in terms of hand combinations, at least.
Yeah, not for sure.
Okay, let's see what happened. And we get raised. Really weird spot, right?
Yeah, it's
to get raised.
Pretty interesting. I mean, it's a pretty shitty draw, just in the fact that when we hit the queen, obviously any ace beats us, so it's really the bottom end of a bad straight. So yeah, I think a queen can obviously be good a decent amount of times, but he's also not going to he's going to understand that we have a ton of ace-x in our range, so he's not just going to be bombing off on a queen as a bluff too often, So I think it's going to be pretty hard to make too much money here.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think also those boards are not getting check raised super often, because it's so hard on those boards to raise with air, right?
Yeah.
To raise with a random ace-x, a random 9x. Even with a queen, most queen-x hands are probably way more often in this calling range. And again, we have all the strong hands, right? We have all the straights, all the 2 pairs, all the top pairs. So yeah, I also think folding 9 high should be the best idea.
Yeah, I like it there. I mean, we're really just drawn to a 7, and yeah, it's as you say, we have so many better hands, so many good value hands, and then obviously all the queen X that we can draw to as well. So no need to get out of line.
We also have some reverse implies, right? Because I think sometimes he definitely has a hand like queen 9, so the 7 comes and we lose our whole stack.
Yeah, for sure.
And as in live cash games, make it easy, play a very tight, aggressive approach, don't play too loose, because as you can see, some players here are really knitting it up, so please do not try to be too loose. You really have to pay rake for every raise, so be a bit cautious.
Yeah.
King 9 off, bottom left is definitely close against the 3x against an unknown.
Yeah, I think it's a good fold. I think calling with like king 10 or even king jack. I think king 10 even is pretty close versus the 3x.
Yeah, I agree.
Versus that position. So speaking of king 10,
bottom right, exactly. Other spot. So he raises smaller, so we feel really good about our hand.
Yeah, it's a good spot to be calling here.
Yeah. So please always call. Do not thread those offsuit hands. Those perform really poorly out of position in a 3-bet pot. Yeah, not our favorite board texture. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't mind 3-betting like king queen off is okay at some frequency, and maybe king jack, but king 10 is just no good. King 10.
Yeah.
And queen 10, jack 10, those hands are they just have such poor equity when called. So when we're using offsuit hands out of the blinds, you want to be using ace queen, sometimes king queen, and then like a ton of the suited broadways work really well, and then some of the lower suited connectors as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, top right, king queen suited. Here it is important that you always 3-bet. So we saw that. So green is fun player, blue is regular, obviously. So even against a fun player, it's really a mandatory 3-bet, because you never want to play 3-handed out of position. And of course, the fun player is calling a ton of worse hands, so really treat this hand like ace-king and always put in the 3-bet. Yeah,
I mean, we should be 3-betting like 10-9 suited plus there always. I think any suited Broadway for sure is just an easy 3-bet. You don't want to be playing. Obviously, that is one of the differences, though, if we pause it here about playing live, is that there's going to be a lot of spots where you can have more of a flatting range in the small blind, just because you're either up against someone who raised who's really bad post flop, so you just want to see a flop and see it cheaply with some more marginal hands, or if the big blind is really bad as well, then you want to just call sometimes and then obviously let him into the hand. So we're not going to only be playing a 3-better fold range in live, excuse me, especially against the weaker players.
Yeah, that's true.
But as a general guideline against regulars, when they raise, it's going to be easier to play mainly 3-better fold.
Yeah, you're completely right. There are so many players which call basically 100% range in the big blind against the steal. So yeah, we definitely should take advantage of that. Yeah, board is super dry, so I just bet fairly small with huge range.
Yeah, I think it's pretty standard. I think anywhere between like third and half pot here is good. Actually, I guess the low paired boards, we can just go.
Yeah, especially, so I think this is also interesting. So against some live players, I don't mind check folding a board texture like that, especially when you 3-bet against the earlier positions.
Yeah.
Because you really have 0 fold equity against some players. But yeah, against the later positions, so cutoff button, of course, you have a ton of fold equity, and online, no question, because people are not floating that wide.
Yeah, I mean, at least a hand like this dude does have really good backdoor draws with the 10, the jack, the diamond. Yeah, so I think this is obviously a great turn.
Yeah, we binked the nuts,
So,
basically. So yeah, we're definitely going to bet turn.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty good hand to use as a triple barrel there in a lot of cases.
Yeah, here I wasn't sure if I really want to pull the trigger against a fun player. I think, yeah, I would have, but still it's always an awkward spot because you have no idea if they are good enough to fold 9x.
Yeah, for sure. But it's definitely, whenever you hit those backdoors, it's always nice. Blocking some of his, I mean, we block like king 9, queen 9, but not blocking a ton of his range. But yeah, definitely always good enough to put in the 2 barrels, that's for sure. And then, yeah, making the judgment call in the river. And that's something also in live games, a lot of times you just want to, you'll put in 2 bets, but if you're playing against the loose stationy players, you got to be really careful in the river, especially in 3-bet pots, because people have they play with that, the sunk cost fallacy, where they figure the money that they've invested into the pot somehow matters, you know what I mean, by the river. So they're like, oh, I've called this much already, I can't fold by the river. Yes. And just a huge proportion of the players have that mindset at the lower stakes. So you can really burn a ton of money if you just barrel off always. You got to be really careful about the player types you want to be doing it against, and obviously the board texture too. But yeah, like I'm always pretty surprised by the stuff people call down with. It's pretty surprising. So you definitely want to be careful. And the thing is, you're never going to get exploited when you just go strictly for value. People aren't going to be overfolding. So you really want to be careful with your bluffs and just be going mainly for value when you're going for the triple barrels.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, definitely be really, really cautious in those situations, because yeah, there will always be players who are not good enough to fold basically any top pair. And yeah, this will definitely cost you way too much money. So sure, you can bet on the river as a bluff, just make sure your opponent is good enough to make some good laydowns.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, top left also had an interesting situation. So we flop a flush draw. I think on this board texture, especially in early position, everything is possible. Usually I would bet way bigger here, because I really want him to float as wide as he can, because he's a fun player, and I really want to give him some room if he has like ace-9 offsuit and pocket deuces to float his whole range on the board texture.
Yeah. What do you think about? I guess the open is pretty loose, but I think it's okay. Like I think king 5 plus would be standard. Something like that here.
Yeah, one player was sitting out, so I'm basically hijack, and I'm just raising a bit looser because the fun player was in the big blind.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So I think pretty.
And all the other players behind are fairly tight. So as you can see, Java is playing 20-10, other playing is playing 16-8, so probably not that threat active. So I think we can loosen up our range a little bit. But I would definitely be not raising weak offsuit hands, right? Never raise like Jack 9 or whatever.
No. Oh, well. Look at this.
And now he min strong bets. Of course, this can be anything, right? When you don't know your opponent, it's really hard to give him a range.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
I think both lines have some advantages, so raising or calling. Because, of course, when we call, we get a pretty good price on our draw. But by the same time, we have a nice draw. We probably have implieds when he has a queen or an 8x type hand. We charge worse draws, and you can maybe fold a 4 or a hand like a 6 or 8 or weak 8x maybe from time to time. So yeah, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think both options are fine. It's really hard to know, but I would be really inclined just to be raising here and try to, because he could just have some weird hand like, I don't know. I mean, I guess he's going to be bet calling if he has a hand like 4 or 5, if he has some type of draw. But I think just we're going to have some fold equity. We got pretty good equity, and then it's also, the thing is, if we just call, it kind of caps our range, because I think if we have value hands here, even though the board's not the best for us, I think we'd still be raising value hands here, right? So yeah, I think it's going to be a lot easier for us to bluff on certain rivers. If we put in a raise here and he calls, then we can assume also that his range is going to be pretty capped, because I think if he had something like 5-7 or a 2-pair or a set, he'll probably be putting in the 3-bet versus our raise. I mean, maybe some 2-pairs he just calls, but I think definitely like sets and straights, he'll probably put in the re-raise, because the board's so dynamic. So we could definitely look to be bluffing some rivers after we raise here.
Yeah, I agree. And we definitely get him to fold some random hands, like maybe he's donking with a hand like ace-10, right?
Yeah.
And against this hand would be such a bad call, because we lose at showdown, because we are not looking to bluff most rivers if he checks to us. So yeah, I think we definitely have some advantages here when we raise. But of course, it really depends on his donking range. When you know more about his donking range, you can definitely go one or the other direction.
Yeah, it's
river
so
is
hard to
not
know.
not the best river card. Not the best bluff card in the world, I'd say.
Yeah, it's terrible. I think. I think thinking of rivers we could bluff. I mean, I think the ace would be good. And then I don't know too much. I mean, I guess on a total blank we could look to bluff as well. But
yeah, I mean, we have some showdown value of king high, I think, against some worse flush draws.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I really don't mind going to showdown with our front door flush here.
Yeah. I mean, I think here it's just a really bad river because he's just never going to fold the queen, obviously, and even like a hand like 8x once he's called to raise, once the board pairs like that. I think people just hate folding on those 2-pair type hands.
Yeah, I agree. And he had ace queen, so yeah, we had some implieds. Not too bad. Nothing we can do.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting line by him. I don't know. I guess he induced the bluff.
Yeah, but if he checks, he also induced.
Yeah, no,
he would have fired.
It's pretty strange.
But yeah, that's definitely always the idea of a lot of fun players, right? They want to induce, they want to slow play, which is obviously not the best idea super often. Yeah, we defend 10-7, nothing to continue. But everyone is talking that online is super tough nowadays. The session was recorded at peak time. I just opened for random tables, and as you can see, online is not that, obviously, right? We have a lot of fun players. Most regulars have pretty bad stats, so yeah, even online is a good training option.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking too, is that if you're, even as a live player, it's really good to get reps online because you're just going to see so many hands, see so many different spots, and then you can study them. And then if you're using solvers to study, then you can obviously plug them into there and just go over a lot of spots. So it's definitely going to help your game out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also doesn't matter how high you play. So if you play no limit 50 or no limit 10 or no limit 5, it's all good because you want to try out those new strategies, right? You really want to try out if they work, how they work, and what you can do. Yeah, top right, interesting spot. Fun player limbs, other fun player ISO raises. We have ace queen offsuit, usually a hand I would love to 3-bet, but the stack sizes are a bit awkward here because our opponent only has 50 big blinds.
Yeah, this is yeah, pretty interesting. I definitely agree that usually a standard 3-bet, but yeah, given his stack size and because he ISO'd an early position raiser, I don't mind the call. It's not necessarily the greatest hand to be playing multi-way, but it's also not the worst. It's probably going to go 3-way really often.
Yeah, I think we can find some advantages for both sides, but I think it's important to see how your opponent is playing. So when you know, okay, he's fairly loose, of course you can value 3-bet, and if you see, okay, he's more a calling station, so raising only some premium hands, limping or limp calling most of the time, then the call will be a bit more profitable in the long run when you try to exploit those fun players.
Yeah, for sure.
Here we don't know nothing. He raises fairly big, so I go for the call. When he would have raised smaller, then I would definitely have 3-bet. Yeah, and we being a pretty nice flop.
He bets full pot, yeah.
Yeah, he bets full pot. We're definitely not loving it.
Yeah, but we obviously going to be calling off usually, I think.
Yeah, nothing we can do,
but
I think, on the flop.
It's definitely an ugly spot. Same with that on the bottom left, actually, too. When that guy bets full pot into 4 people, when we got the ace 8.
Yeah, exactly.
We had to call once, but we're not fist bumping, that's for sure.
Exactly. Bottom left, we completed ace 8. It was 4-handed. I check called flop against Gresser. He bets, as you said, full pot. Not loving it, but still, some people have no clue about bet sizing, so they're just betting with 5-6 for protection value because they don't realize we can have a queen or an ace in our check calling range. And of course, when the 8 is a river, now I'm feeling pretty confident about my hand.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's also going to be raising, you know, like ace 10 offsuit plus. Probably most players are going to be raising pre-flop, so he definitely has a lot of just weaker ace X.
Yeah, I was thinking about betting smaller on the river, but the turn is a king, right? So I think he can never really call with a queen unless I bet like 1/4, 1/5 pot size, which I really don't want to do. And I think he still can have hands like ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4, ace 6, ace 7. Maybe even ace 9 from time to time. So I go for a big bet. But in hindsight, I think even betting bigger against a fun player is better, because if he has an ace, he's going nowhere. So probably betting like nearly full pot is way better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think anywhere between, say like 2/3, 3/4 to like a full pot or even an overbet sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because he's going to have a tough time folding an ace. And that's a good point too about when he does have the queen, he's going to be, it's going to be tough for him to call with the 2 overs. Maybe once in a while he'll call like a third pot bet, but I think versus range, we're going to be losing out a lot by using a smaller sizing. So
yeah, definitely.
Just want to be going bigger.
Okay, let's see what happens. Our top right table. Hopefully he slows down on the turn.
Yeah, I mean,
but of course,
easy call. He's got
he
ace 10. Got the ace 10?
I think he had like ace 9 or ace 8 or something like this. Yeah, had ace 9 off. GG.
Yeah, I mean, definitely never folding there. I mean, it's a whatever spot. I think against a lot of players I'd be happy, but against obviously tighter players I'm not loving it, but you can just never get away.
Yeah, exactly. Our hand is way too strong. We under-wrapped our hand pre-flop.
Yeah, queen 10 ISO in for sure. Pretty near the bottom of our ISO range here, I think.
Yes.
Maybe jack 10's okay, but I wouldn't like 9-10 I think would be too loose.
Yeah. Yeah, all those donk bets.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think with queen 10 again.
Call in for sure. Yeah, I mean, and if it was checked, what do you think if it was checked to us? I think it could be. I think betting or checking are totally fine. Like if we're betting, I would definitely want to go on the smaller side. But I think it's a pretty good hand to check back as well sometimes three-way.
Yeah, I agree. We have no diamond, so really perfect hand to check on the flop. No backdoor flush draw, no added equity. We definitely want to protect our checking range, get some random spazzes on the turn and river from the fun players, because sometimes they are super creative, right? That so they show up with hands like 10-9 and hearts, so they bet turn, jam river, and of course against those hands we definitely don't earn anything when we bet flop. He bets turn. I'm not feeling too good about my hand now, because a lot of straights are there. Some 2 pairs get there, like 3-4, 3-6, and I think when he plays 46, so 40 VP IP6 prefer raise, he can definitely call with those hands out of position. But still, the price is too good. He only bets 450 into 10. River's an ace, another bad card, I think. Yeah.
Jeez.
That really, really sucks. I don't know if he's check folding with king queen or queen jack. Maybe he's bad enough to shove even those hands. He definitely has some straights, some ace high flush draws. So I think this river is just horrible.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of his draws can contain an ace, and he's not slowing down. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd probably just fold here. It kind of sucks, but...
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the price is good. This is the 1 point for the call, but still, I have a really hard time finding enough bluffs.
Yeah,
besides
exactly.
Random diamonds.
Yeah, you could have had like 7-8. Obviously 5-7 got there. Maybe he has something like 5-3 suited, but I don't see, especially he's playing 39-6. I mean, I don't see those type of players just like triple barrel donking. With when they hit pairs like that. I think they're just playing passively and trying to check call with their draws. So,
exactly.
Yeah,
I was going to talk about that. Definitely watch out for your opponent, and when he looks fairly passive, this is not the player type that random barrels 3 times with a missed flush draw gut shot.
Yeah.
Pretty strong donking ranges. So yeah, folding river should be good. But as you can see, I was considering calling.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice we don't block any diamonds, which is something, obviously, when we do block, 2 pairs having the queen. But yeah, I think these spots, they're close, but I don't mind just making hero folds.
Yeah, and you never get exploited, right?
No.
So it's always fine to overfold a little bit against those players. And yeah, make the fold, so we don't know what he had, unfortunately. And yeah, those are definitely also the spots live, right? When people donk into you or call flop, donk turn, or call turn, donk river. It's not that easy to put those opponents on realistic ranges.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough part of the game. I mean, it's obviously easy when you have hands because they're just, betting for you. But yeah, it can become tough when you have those bluff catcher type hands. So then you really want to focus on, any previous showdowns you've seen. Like bet sizing tells if he's going really small. A lot of times, players are just making like merge errors where they're just betting like second and third pair. They don't know what they're doing, So you can definitely call down later there. But if someone's like, putting in big bets, especially on later streets, I'll give them a lot of credit until I find out more about their game, because if you try to make those light call downs, I mean, you're just going to get burned, At least from my experience, it's been, people are just showing up with really strong ranges when they're putting in a lot of big bets like that. So
yeah,
there's
especially
just
when the
no
pot
reason
gets
to get
bigger,
involved.
then people are a bit more cautious.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, like people just aren't willing to put in those huge bluffs. I mean, more so in the 2-5 games. But if you're playing like 1-2 or 1-3 against random players, like people, they're going to be playing pretty honest, that's a fine strategy. That's our strategy mainly too, right? But
Yeah.
the difference is that we're not going to be the one, making the calling mistakes.
Yeah, and this is the problem from most players, that they call way too light down, because they think, maybe he is bluffing, so I just call down with ace high or third pair on the river.
Yeah, it's definitely really common. I think people are getting slowly better over time, the pool, but I think the progress is really slow. So you can really separate yourself a lot from these type of players by putting in steady off the tables. You can just create massive edges.
Yeah, for sure. You see really amazing stuff happening at the live field. Yeah, pocket threes. I fold.
Yeah, I mean, there's a spot where, if we talk about in a live game, if I was in a really soft live game, I would definitely limp that,
Yeah.
Because those low pocket pairs, they have huge implied odds when you're playing in soft fields, because people can just never get away from over pairs. So if you're sitting there like 150 or even 100 big blinds or shorter sometimes, or 150 or 200 big blinds deep, that's when you can win the huge pots against weak players, because you limp and then say a tight guy raises, but he's bad post flop, for example, and you just know he has a big pair, and you spike a set and you just get all their money so often, So that's where you can make. I think spiking sets, that's going to be a big portion of your win rate in these low games. They're just so valuable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's really like online 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because when your opponent is better, of course he will realize, okay, he's only limp calling pairs or limp calling suited aces. So when he check raises board texture, he's pretty nut heavy. I should overfold. But of course, in live poker, it's really hard to make overpairs, right? So 2 times, 3 times the evening, you have an overpair, and that's why it is so hard to fold those overpairs. Online, it's easy, right? So as you can see, we play 4 tables. We have like 1 million overpairs if you play for 6-7 hours. But live, it's different. It's really like 3-4 times the evening, depending on how long you play and stuff. But yeah, that's why it is so hard to fold good hands, good top pairs, overpairs. And yeah, you just pray that your opponent has no set. But of course, this is not a very good strategy.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, also the fact that when you limp in a really soft game, a lot of times it'll go multi-way, which is never bad when you have a low pocket pair, because they're so easy to play post flop. It's like if you hit a set, you're usually going to win a huge pot. Obviously you're going to get unlucky sometimes, but and then if you miss, you just check fold, right? So they're really, especially for newer players, they're really easy to play. There's not too much stress, and and so that's like the funnest part of the game, right? Is trying to hit sets.
Yeah,
that's like the best rush is when you're in like a 3-bet pot or a big raise pot pre-flop and you spike a set. It's one of the best
thing
feelings
in the world. When you think about, please dealer 6, and the first door card is a 6, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. I really love it.
So what happened? So as the ace queen, you 3-bet the ace queen, obviously.
We just 3-bet against the steal and take it down, so nothing happened so far. I think with Ace King, it's yeah, let's see what happens. So yeah, exactly. So I think it was cutoff raised. Those guy Mac LZ. I 3-bet of course with Ace King offsuit, and now the limper cold calls our 3-bet.
Yeah, that's
really
weird.
Funny. So he's definitely also a weaker opponent, not as bad as the other players. So at least he's tighter, as we can see. He plays 25-10 or 25-9. So he's as loose as we are, but yeah, definitely playing not that great.
Yeah, I think I'd like to go a bit bigger with 3-bet too, though. Maybe like 8, just go 4x, being out of position. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, probably a little bit bigger is better. I think you're right. I only made it like 650.
Yeah.
So at least 7 probably. I mean, he raised so big, like 4x, right? So,
yeah.
But still, yeah, I don't mind going even a bit bigger.
Yeah, and I think we can definitely assume the guy who limped and then called the 3-bet. I think his range is pretty defined, right? I guess it's hard to tell sometimes, but I think it's going to be a ton of like pocket 6s through pocket 8s, possibly 9s, and then maybe some suited broadways, like 10-jack suited type hands. But it's kind of hard to tell. But I would imagine it's like really pocket pair heavy.
Yeah, I also think so. So some pocket pairs, some suited aces, maybe some suited broadways. Probably that's about it. Yeah. And of course, bottom left, not the best board texture for our hand.
Yeah, 3-way, that's pretty dicey here, 3-way, I think.
Yeah, it's really ugly. I mean, we make top pair, but we're not getting called by a ton of worse when we think about hands, right, that are possible. At least when we want to go for multiple streets.
Yeah, and I think when you're in 3-bet pots and then somebody cold calls behind you, I think it's a good spot to start checking a ton, just on a lot of flops. Just because it's kind of hard to, unless it's like a really dry flop and it's easy to play, it's pretty hard to develop good, strong checking ranges, if you're not checking enough hands.
Yeah.
So I think here we could basically check, everything. I mean, we could start betting if we had something like king, queen in our sets just as an exploit, but I'd be checking here a ton with even like ace, king, and aces, and keeping it simple.
Yeah, for sure. And we also have a lot of hands that we have to check fold here, right? Like 10s and jacks and
yeah, or at least maybe check call a small bet, but yeah, definitely not want to be playing more passive.
Exactly. Yeah, bottom right, also interesting situation pops up. So dark raises to 3 big blinds. Fun player clicks it back, makes it 250.
Yeah, this is weird.
Another player cold calls. I think this is important here. We're in the small blind, we're out of position. You never want to play out of position against 1 million people with a strong overpair.
Yeah, this is more like a live hand.
Yeah, exactly. So
something that would happen. I mean, yeah, this is interesting because I think with jacks, the guy has what, like 50, a little over 50 big blinds.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd be inclined just to be trying to get the money in with that guy. I think we're strong enough. I think if we had like 8s or 9s, I think as an exploit we could just be call in, to be honest, right? Because there's such huge implied odds. But I think with jacks plus, we should just be trying to get the money in with that guy. 10, maybe 10s even. I don't mind call in. I think it'd be close.
Yeah, it depends a little bit on your opponent, right? When you think, yeah, he's sometimes random 3-betting because he likes it, I would also 3-bet 10s or squeeze 10s here. And if I think, he's really on the tighter side, probably has a somewhat nutted range, then yeah, the call becomes more profitable.
Yeah, it's weird that the min 3-bet too looks pretty weak,
Yeah, for sure.
But
some
you never
players
do that as a nutted range, but yeah, it is. It's really hard to know. I think in live games, when I see that, I obviously refer to any info I had before, but I see a lot of players doing that with like, I don't know, weird like suited connectors and like even mid pocket pairs. I see that a decent amount, that they just don't know what to do, so they put in like a min click.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's really weird. So don't always think that they're nutted when they do that. That's definitely a misconception.
Yeah, exactly. So please do not flat like kings or ace king suited against a min suited against a 50 big blind stack. Just try to get it in when he's bad. Yeah, bottom left, our opponent bets 1 force pot, so if ace king, I think we have no decision, so we just check call.
Yeah.
Super good price.
Oh wow, look at this.
Yeah, and under the gun, under the gun 4 bets, really shitty spot top right. But it's also a good situation. So as we can see, our opponent so far has only a 3-bet percentage of 3.4%, so I don't expect him to be super loose, right? So 3-bet and 4-bet a ton. And also, he can't bluff that wide, because he still has a fun player behind that can have a somewhat strong range and is not folding.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think his range here is going to be so nutted given the action, you know, because, I mean, your range is super strong here. I mean, you're never going to have a bluffing range here either, right? There's no point of having a bluffing range here.
Yeah.
So we're basically just going strictly for value. So I think his range is going to be super nutted. But I think, given the price and the implied odds, I think we should peel, right?
I don't know. I think I just folded pre. I think he's never ever bluffing. And with jacks, I think on a ton of board textures, I'm forced to lose even more money.
Yeah, that is definitely something to
And the stack sizes are
consider,
not deep, as you can see. So I think when we are like 75 bucks or even deeper, right? So 150 big blinds or more, then I think we cannot fold. Because, yeah, sometimes he may have ace-king suited. And, yeah, our implies go up when he has aces, right? And we bink a jack. But here, yeah, we have not a very profitable call when we think his range is so nutted. And I don't want to check call low board textures on the flop.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I would be tempted just to peel once to try to hit a set or something like, 8, 9, 10 that we can get it all in. But I think I do agree that it gets dangerous because if we call here, we're kind of forced to call at least one bet on a small board. So, if we're confident his range is that nutted.
Yeah, I think when the situation is different, so we just 3-bet against under the gun, we have to call, right? There's just no question when there's no fun player involved. We are not folding jacks, because then he can bluff 4-bet or value 4-bet a bit looser with ace-king off, and we make a huge mistake when we fold jacks there. So yeah, then I'm way more tempted to call. Yeah, bottom left, he bets turn for 1 half pot or something like this again, and yeah, he rips river with a 4 on the river. And I think with ace-king, there's really nothing we can do. He has all the straights, all the straights, all the full houses, all the queen x hands. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gross, but the way it's gone down, I mean, he's not just like betting on the flop with like pocket 7s or 8s, I wouldn't imagine. So it's like we're praying that he has like some horribly played king jack. But as you say, I mean, he could have all the 10 jack suited, pocket 9s. He could have even been playing tricky with like, I mean, I guess pocket queens is only one combo, but yeah, it's a really weird hand. I don't know.
Yeah, but again, I think it's totally fine. Like you mentioned, we can definitely check most of our hands on this board texture. So we have all the strong hands, we have trips, we have some full houses. So folding top here should be totally fine.
Yeah. I mean, it does feel kind of gross, but I definitely agree that when we really think about his range, it's like, is he really triple barrel bluffing into us with worse there? And it's like impossible to find draws. You know what I mean? There's no draws.
Yeah. Especially on those boards, they under bluff massively. Yeah, top right, we have also tricky spots. So here, cutoff raised, I flat with queen jack off. Yeah, of course, I flat to play 3-handed with a fun player, but fun player in the big blind folds. And yeah, he bets flop, I call. Turn is an interesting card, I think, because the turn is a 10 of diamonds, so the front of flush draw gets there. And we have no flush, obviously. But I still think we can extract some value. We can protect our hand, get some value from worse, right? From hands like 9s or jacks with a diamond, or even without a diamond. Maybe even from a hand with a 10x plus diamond, right? So I go for a thin value here.
Yeah, I think it's good. How much did he bet on the flop, sorry?
He bets 70%.
Okay, yeah. I guess that definitely is a little bit more strong. I don't mind either play, to be honest. This is also nice because it does prevent us from being bluffed on runouts on different rivers, so it's kind of like a small blocker / thin value bet.
Yeah, I think the beauty of this bet is that we are not forced anymore to call blank rivers.
Yeah.
Because when the river is a blank, he bets. I think our hand is still way too strong to fold. And of course, he will probably not bet 1/3 pot size. He's probably betting bigger. And on the turn, we are sure that he's calling a lot of worse. Especially in live, I think it's important to bet this board texture, but not bet too big. I see this often that People always check the turn because they are afraid the preferred raiser has a lot of sets and flushes, which is wrong. Or they bet like $10, right? So full pot with their second pair. So they really make sure they are only getting called when they are crushed. So yeah, you have to bet smaller and really think about the hands that can call that are worse than your hand. So in this situation, as you can see, it's really like worse pairs with a flush draw. Sometimes a weak queen, like queen 9 and hearts, or in another suit like in clubs. A hand like 10x for the diamond, right? Even with ace king, ace jack and diamond, maybe sometimes check calling those hands. You never know.
Yeah, for sure.
He calls, and river is usually not that interesting. I think it's way too thin to go for value again. So yeah, river.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting spot on the turn. The one thing that concerns me is 70% pot on the flop. But I think it's really close. Like I think king queen, we can definitely bet it, and I think queen jack is fine too.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't go too wide, right? So queen jack should be our bottom range, because when you bet like every second pair or every weak top pair, so if we decide to flat with whatever queen 8, right? It's really easy to exploit us with the light check calls on the turn, some check raises as a bluff. So yeah, you should be a bit cautious against more aggressive players.
Yeah, for sure.
But in general, especially live, I think you're never getting check raised in a situation like this as a bluff. It's like once a evening, max. So yeah, really
because
nice
our range is pretty protected there with flushes as well. I mean, we're going to be 3-betting a lot of our suited aces, but we have a lot of suited cards that we're going to be able to flat as well. So we're pretty well protected.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, bottom right, we 3-bet queens. Not the best board. Really not the best board. 10-8-6 with 2 diamonds. Bottom right. But I think queens still need some protection, so I still go for the value bet.
Yeah, I think I'd be checking this a lot, but yeah, we do have the diamond. I like the sizing too. If I'm going to bet, I want to be definitely going more polar. But I think it's close. It'd be interesting to run this.
Yeah, I think with aces, kings, right, we should check a bit more often because we need less protection.
Yeah.
So with queens and jacks, definitely betting a bit more often. And of course betting queens with a diamond more often because we have the backdoor flush draw without. So yeah, red queens are definitely a better hand to check on the flop.
Yeah, for sure.
And we really hope that he is folding now. We also like calling, but if he check raises, this is such an awkward spot. Full ring, given ranges. Don't think he's raising a ton of flush draws, so it's really, really tricky.
Yeah, it is. It's always tough. I mean, if I'm playing in a live game against a random player, and he goes for a big check raise there, I'm just getting away right away on the flop, because people just aren't bluffing wide enough at all. Even with the backdoor flush draw that we have, it's really easy to get sucked in there, and you just run into 2-pair plus like 90% of the time. So
yeah, it's so often the case. And again, when he just has sets and some nut flush draws against this range, you're you're really crushed. Nothing you can do.
Yeah,
bottom right with ace king offsuit. I think Tick or Bitties was sitting out, so it's really hijack cut off. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think 4-betting here is in order.
Yeah, pretty standard.
Yeah, we bink the
Good
nuts.
Flop.
And we go for the trap.
Oh, checking, eh?
Yeah, I think usually we should always bet this board texture, especially against a good opponent. But here, different story, right? He has no clue about 4-bet ranges and stuff. So I think I want to give him some room to hang himself if he has a hand like queen jack or pocket force and he just wants to barrel through.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, as a standard, I would be betting like a quarter pot with my whole range here, but that's definitely something interesting to think about because he does have not the biggest stack, and he's playing, 44-19?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I don't mind occasionally putting on a trap. I mean, I'd say usually just bet small because he might spaz out versus that too, but yeah, that's an interesting play here. I think he could definitely have some benefits.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Also live, some people just love to spaz when you check to them, especially when there's a lot of money in the pot, right? So there is something to fight for. And what is also important, when you play deep, please never check flop. You have to bet flop to get all the money into the by the river. But here, as we can see, 2 bets are way more than enough to get all the money in. So even if he checks flop, we just bet turn, shove river. That's it. Let's see if it works out. And I can remember this hand. So he bets small. Of course, please never. I see this super often that now, yeah, a lot of players go ahead and check raise. So yeah, our plan is not working this way because we really want him to spaz, right? To bet flop with queen jack and go ahead and just rip it on the turn. And if he has queen jack and you go ahead and check raise flop, where is the money coming from, right? So yeah. Give him some room to hang himself, check call flop, check call turn, win it all, easy game. So yeah, we check one more time. He checks back, so yeah, he probably has some short-on value, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he can definitely have some ace-x there that he didn't want to. I mean, I guess he 3-bet pre, called a 4-bet, so. Pretty interesting. I think just shoving's the play because I mean I think if he has a hand like ace jack suited, ace 10 suited, he's going to be calling really often. And if he has a hand like I don't know 10s through queens, obviously the queen's a set. But if he had some 10s or jacks or maybe some 9x or some just other stuff that he bet the flop with, he's not going to be calling regardless of the sizing really. So
yeah, we have to bet so small, right? Like 1/4, 1/5 pot size, and we lose so much EV if he happens to have an ace.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we rip. I really like that. Yeah, but yeah, nothing we can do. He probably had not a very strong hand. And yeah, I think this was a very, very, very interesting sessions. We saw some similarities between live and online. Yeah, do you have some final words?
Yeah, no, it was pretty interesting. I think that ace king hand was definitely not something I think about too often, to be honest. But it is definitely an interesting play, especially if you're in a live format. If you're playing against someone who, as you mentioned, a lot of people just go insane versus checks.
Yes.
Because in their mind, the way that they play is that they're always betting their value, which is usually going to be right in most cases. But they think that once you check, it's like a green light, because obviously their checking ranges are so unbalanced and weak, you know. So they assume other players are playing like that as well. So you're definitely going to find player types who will just go insane versus checks, and it can definitely be a higher EV line to lay some traps like that, especially if you block. You know, let's say we had pocket aces there where we're blocking a ton of the top of his range. Then in that case, I like it even more, right? Because then he just has way more air in his range. So, yeah, definitely something to think about.
Okay, yeah, I would say that's it. And this was 4.86.
And Mariana 5.
For Raise Your Edge. Take care, guys.
All right, see you guys.